How do you do, y'all? This is John, and today we are talking about The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, a new movie out in theaters right now. And then The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes deals with President Snow as a young man before he's President Snow, and he takes upon the task to mentor this young woman from District 12 who is being sent into the then 10th annual Hunger Games. However, in doing so, things happen and Snow's life just goes into like this haywire of events. Okay, so getting into first and foremost what I liked about the movie, the thing that stood out to me the most is I actually liked the guy playing Snow in this film. And I do think that out of all of the characters, he probably has the only one that has a arc that you could feel the arc from beginning to end. Because Snow, if you've read the original Hunger Games trilogy or seen the movie adaptations, you know who this guy is. And you also get the image that he wasn't always like that. And you see that evolution of this once good guy being turned into arguably the biggest evil that this universe has seen. And while by the end he's not at that evil point yet, the stage has been set and you don't need any further exposition after that. You know who he's going to turn into. From a visual standpoint, this movie looks very good. This definitely looks like Panem from decades before the events of the very first Hunger Games. And unlike some other prequels out there who have this issue of somehow there's more advanced tech than in the original film, with this one, the technology is actually a lot less advanced than it is in the first Hunger Games. All the TVs and stuff have like this retro 50s look to them, whereas with the first Hunger Games, their TVs are all projectors at that point. The special effects are also consistently good throughout this movie. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the most realistic special effects in a movie this year. However, the movie does have some very good visual effects in it. The problem I have with this movie, though, is a good chunk of it is a complete mess. They divided this movie up into 3 parts, part 1, part 2, and part 3, with part 2 having the actual Hunger Games in it. And part 1 and part 2, the whole movie felt like a complete mess. It felt very rushed. It didn't feel very organic. Any of these characters, other than Snow, you have no idea who they are or what stands them out as a character. Part 3, though, and this is very jarring, Part 3 is actually nearly perfect. In terms of the writing and Francis Lawrence's direction, Part 3 is nearly perfect, which just makes Part 1 and Part 2 even more jarring. The most obvious, biggest effect that this whole situation has on it is also with the character of Lucy Gray, who's supposed to be very important. Lucy Gray does not come out as very likable in parts 1 and part 2, but in part 3, total 180 on her character. It's very weird. The actress who plays her, Rachel Zegler, does do a good job in this film. Her character's not very well written. The pacing in this movie is also very inconsistent. Part 1, the pacing is extremely slow. With part 2, it just couldn't make up its mind. And with part 3, well, it actually wasn't that bad in part 3. I also couldn't help but notice that the Hunger Games themselves, it felt like the Hunger Games was very much sanitized with this movie. First 2 movies with the Hunger Games and those, they were gritty as heck. Actually in the first one, they were really pushing the boundaries on what they could do in a PG-13 movie. And they were brutal and intense, and you know, you wanted to see Katniss and Peeta make it out alive. This movie, everything was safe and sanitized, and he just didn't give a hang. Because at the end of the day, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a complete missed opportunity. Could have made a generally good prequel film about Snow before he was President Snow, but at the end of the day, they may have been trying. The film's a mess, and I cannot enjoy it. I'm gonna give The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes a 4. Well, that's all the time I have for today. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Please also subscribe if you're new to the channel. And as always, please remember, the Badetsky will return. Hello everybody. This is just a quick reminder that my crowdfunding campaign is live, and I highly encourage everyone to please donate to it and make the movie happen and help get the film made.